My name is Dr. Richard Hayes, and on August 15, 1982, I discovered something that should have revolutionized marine biology, changed our understanding of prehistoric survival, and proven beyond doubt that Loch Ness harbors life that officially doesn't exist. Instead, that discovery destroyed my career, ended my marriage, and forced me into hiding for 43 years. I'm 79 years old now, recording this testimony from a location I won't disclose, knowing that the people who've spent for decades ensuring my silence are probably still watching, still waiting for me to make the mistake of going public. But I'm dying, stage 4 lung cancer, perhaps 6 months remaining, and I've decided that some truths are too important to die with me. What I found wasn't just evidence of the creature. It was the nest. The breeding ground. The hidden sanctuary where something ancient and impossible was raising its young in chambers carved from rock beneath the loch. And what I saw there, what I documented before they took everything from me, proved that the Loch Ness Monster isn't a single individual or even a small population. It's a species. A thriving, reproducing, remarkably adapted species that has survived in complete secrecy for thousands of years. I was 36 in 1982, a marine biologist with the University of Edinburgh, specializing in aquatic ecosystems and deep-water species. My career was promising. I'd published papers on unusual fish populations in Scottish lochs, documented previously unknown species in deep ocean trenches, built a reputation as someone who did serious science in places most researchers ignored. When funding came through for a comprehensive study of Loch Ness's benthic environment, the deep-water ecosystem near the loch bed, I jumped at the opportunity. Not because I believed in monsters, but because Loch Ness represented a unique freshwater environment that hadn't been properly studied using modern underwater technology. The grant was substantial, the equipment state-of-the-art, and the potential for legitimate scientific discovery was significant. I assembled a small team, 2 graduate students, a technician to operate the remotely operated vehicle, ROV, and a boat captain who knew the loch intimately. We set up a research station on the shore near Urquhart Bay and began systematic surveys of the loch bed, using sonar mapping and ROV cameras to document the underwater geography with unprecedented detail. For 3 weeks, we found exactly what we expected. Rock formations, sediment deposits, occasional fish, sunken logs, old boat anchors, the accumulated debris of centuries of human activity on the water. Nothing unusual. Nothing that couldn't be explained by ordinary geology and ecology. Then, on August 15th, we found the cave system. If you're watching this, if this testimony has reached you, then you need to understand from the start, what I'm about to describe cost me everything. My career. My reputation. My freedom. Subscribe to this channel right now because YouTube needs to see engagement on content like this. Leave a comment below, even just "I believe" or "this is important," because that tells the algorithm to recommend this to more people. Share this video everywhere. The more people who see it, the harder it becomes to suppress. Because what I discovered needs to be known, regardless of what it cost me to find it. The cave entrance appeared on our sonar during a routine mapping run of the northeastern section of the loch. A fissure in the rock wall, approximately 4 meters wide, descending at a steep angle into depths our sonar couldn't penetrate. The opening was at 210 meters, far deeper than recreational divers could reach, in an area of the loch that had never been thoroughly explored. Could be interesting, my technician said, studying the sonar return. Geological formation, may be connected to the Great Glen Fault system. Worth investigating. We deployed the ROV the next morning. The vehicle was top of the line for 1982, equipped with high-definition cameras, Powerful lights, robotic arms for collecting samples. It descended slowly, its tether playing out behind it, its camera sending back images of rock walls covered in algae and sediment. The fissure opened into a tunnel. Not a natural crack, but a passage that had been enlarged, smoothed, modified by something. The wall showed marks that couldn't be explained by water erosion alone. Scratches, gouges, patterns that suggested deliberate excavation. "Are you seeing this?" one of my graduate students asked, his voice tight with excitement. "Those marks look almost intentional." "Let's not jump to conclusions," I said, though my heart was racing. Could be geological. Could be from rocks being moved by water flow over centuries. But I knew. Even then, I knew we were seeing something else. Something that shouldn't exist but did. The ROV continued deeper. The tunnel descended for perhaps 50 meters before opening into a chamber. And what our cameras showed in that chamber made everyone in the research station go silent. The chamber was massive, at least 30 meters across, the ceiling lost in darkness beyond the reach of our lights. But it was what occupied the chamber that made my hands shake as I operated the ROV controls. Structures. Not natural formations, but constructed. Circular platforms raised slightly above the chamber floor, each perhaps 3 meters in diameter, arranged in a pattern that suggested organization rather than randomness. And on these platforms were objects that looked disturbingly like eggs. Large eggs. Roughly a meter long, oval-shaped, covered in what appeared to be a leathery membrane that glistened in our lights. I counted 12 visible eggs distributed across the platforms. Some appeared darker, more opaque. Others seemed almost translucent, with suggestions of movement inside. "What are we looking at?" my technician whispered. "I don't know," I said, though that was a lie. I knew exactly what we were looking at. A nest. A breeding chamber. Evidence that something was reproducing in the depths of Loch Ness, something large enough to produce eggs the size of small humans. The ROV's cameras panned across the chamber, documenting everything. The platforms appeared to be made from piled stones, deliberately stacked, carefully arranged, maintained by something with the intelligence and capability to modify its environment. Between the platforms were channels carved into the rock floor, possibly for water circulation, possibly for drainage. And scattered throughout the chamber were bones. Fish mostly, piled in specific locations as if stored for future use. But also larger bones, deer, perhaps, or seals, suggesting that whatever lived here hunted on land as well as in water. "We need to get samples," one of my graduate students said. "Document everything. This is incredible." I knew we should surface immediately, contact the university, report what we'd found through official channels. But scientific curiosity overrode caution. This was the discovery of a lifetime. Evidence that would revolutionize cryptozoology, force the scientific community to acknowledge that large unknown species could still exist in thoroughly mapped environments. I maneuvered the ROV closer to one of the eggs. The robotic arm extended, preparing to take a sample of the membrane. And that's when we heard the sound. Through the ROV's hydrophones, a low-frequency rumble that vibrated through the equipment. Not mechanical. Organic. Something approaching the chamber, something large enough to create pressure waves we could detect through the water. "Pull back," I said, my voice sharp with sudden fear. "Get the ROV away from the eggs." But it was too late. The creature entered the chamber. It came through an opening on the opposite side of the chamber, a tunnel we hadn't noticed, larger than the one we'd entered through. The ROV cameras captured it in perfect detail: serpentine neck, massive body, flippers that looked both reptilian and mammalian. But it was the size that made my breath catch. Easily 12 meters long, possibly more, moving through the water with grace that belied its bulk. The creature stopped when it saw the ROV. Hung motionless in the water, its head turning toward our cameras. And then it did something that proved beyond doubt this wasn't a simple animal. It positioned itself between our ROV and the eggs. Deliberately. Protectively. The way an intelligent being guards its offspring. "It's protecting the nest," my graduate student whispered. "It knows we're here. It knows we're a threat." The creature made another sound, higher pitched, more urgent. And from other tunnels around the chamber, 2 more creatures appeared. Smaller than the first, but still massive by any standard. A family group. A breeding population. Multiple individuals working together to protect their young. I should have retreated immediately. Should have recognized that we were intruders in a space these creatures considered sacred. But the scientist in me couldn't look away. Couldn't stop documenting this impossible scene playing out on our monitors. One of the smaller creatures approached the ROV. Not aggressively, but with clear curiosity. It circled our vehicle, examining it from different angles, its intelligence evident in every movement. It touched the ROV gently with its flipper, testing, investigating, trying to understand what this strange metal object was doing in their nesting chamber. Then it looked directly into the camera. And I swear, in that moment, I felt something pass between us. Recognition. Awareness. The creature understanding that there were humans on the other end of this machine, and humans understanding that we were being evaluated by something with cognitive capabilities we'd never imagined. Stop right here. This is the moment everything changed. The moment we went from observing wildlife to engaging with intelligence. Subscribe to this channel immediately. Leave a comment, any comment, to tell YouTube this content matters. Share this video with every group, every forum, every person who believes that science sometimes discovers truths it's not ready to accept. Because what happened next proved that these creatures weren't just protecting territory. They were making a choice about whether to let us live. The largest creature made a decision. I could see it in the way it moved, the way it positioned itself, the way the other 2 responded to its presence. It swam toward the ROV, slowly but deliberately, and I thought we were about to lose our equipment. Thought it would destroy the vehicle, cut our tether, end the intrusion the only way it knew how. Instead, it pushed the ROV. Gently. Firmly. Guiding it back toward the tunnel entrance. Not attacking. Not destroying. But making it absolutely clear that we were not welcome here, that we needed to leave, that this space belonged to them and them alone. I complied. Retreated. Maneuvered the ROV back through the tunnel, up toward the surface, away from the chamber and its impossible occupants. The creature followed us to the fissure entrance, making sure we actually left, then disappeared back into the depths. We surfaced the ROV in stunned silence. Retrieved the vehicle. Reviewed the footage we'd captured, watching it again and again, unable to believe what our cameras had documented. "We have to report this," my technician said. "We have to tell someone." "Who?" I asked. "Who do we tell? The university? The government? The media? And what do we say? That we found a breeding population of creatures that aren't supposed to exist? That they're intelligent enough to construct nesting sites and protect their young? That they let us go when they could have destroyed our equipment? We have evidence, one of my graduate students insisted. Video footage. Multiple angles. Clear documentation. This is scientific proof. I looked at the monitors, at the frozen image of the creature looking into our camera, and I felt a certainty that had nothing to do with scientific training and everything to do with instinct. If we release this, I said slowly, if we make this public, what happens to those creatures? What happens to that nest? How long before every media outlet, every government agency, every curiosity seeker descends on this loch with equipment and boats and nets? How long before those eggs become specimens and those creatures become test subjects? The room went quiet. Because everyone knew I was right. Discovery would mean destruction. Proof would mean capture. Evidence would mean the end of whatever remarkable species had survived in these waters by remaining hidden. So what do we do? My technician asked. We make copies of the footage, I said. Multiple copies, stored in multiple locations. And then we decide very carefully who, if anyone, gets to see what we found. That was my first mistake. Because we weren't the only ones watching Loch Ness. And by the time I realized that, it was already too late. They came 2 days later. 3 men in dark suits, arriving at our research station in a black sedan that looked completely out of place against the backdrop of the Scottish Highlands. They had credentials from a government agency I'd never heard of, authorization to review our research, and the confident manner of people who expected to be obeyed without question. Dr. Hayes, the lead man, said, introducing himself as Director Campbell. We understand you've made some interesting discoveries in your survey of the loch. We'd like to discuss your findings. How did you know about our research? I asked. Our reports haven't been filed yet. We monitor all significant research activity at Loch Ness. Have done so for decades. Your ROV deployment to depths exceeding 200 meters triggered our interest. The extended time you spent at that depth suggested you'd found something worth investigating. You've been watching us. We watch everyone who gets too close to certain truths. It's our job. Now, we need to see your footage. All of it. And we need to discuss how this situation will be managed going forward. I should have refused. Should have demanded to see proper authorization, should have contacted the university, should have protected the research through official channels. But Director Campbell made it clear that cooperation wasn't optional. We can do this the easy way, he said, his tone pleasant but carrying unmistakable threat, or we can obtain a warrant, confiscate all your equipment, and classify your research under national security provisions. The easy way is much better for everyone involved. We showed them the footage. Watched their faces as they saw what we'd seen, the chamber, the eggs, the creatures protecting their nest. Director Campbell's expression never changed, but his two colleagues exchanged glances that suggested this wasn't news to them. They'd known. Maybe not the specifics, but they'd known something was down there. This footage cannot be released publicly, Director Campbell said when the video ended. It cannot be included in any papers or reports. It cannot be discussed with anyone outside this room. Is that understood? You can't classify scientific research, I protested. This is a significant biological discovery. The scientific community has a right to know. The scientific community has no rights where national security is concerned. And this, he gestured at the monitors, represents a potential threat to public safety and social stability that you are not qualified to assess. Those creatures aren't a threat. They let us go when they could have destroyed our equipment. They're protective of their young, yes, but they're not aggressive toward humans who don't threaten them. You've had one encounter, Dr. Hayes. One data point. You have no idea how these creatures would respond to sustained human presence, to attempts at capture or study, to the media attention that would descend on this loch if proof of their existence became public. We do. We've been managing this situation for considerably longer than you've been alive. That's when I understood. This wasn't about a recent discovery. This was about maintaining a secret that had been kept for decades, possibly longer. Director Campbell's agency, whatever it was, had known about the creatures all along. And they'd been working to ensure that knowledge remained limited to a very small group of people they could control. Director Campbell gave me 48 hours to decide. Either I would voluntarily surrender all copies of the footage, sign a non-disclosure agreement backed by the Official Secrets Act, and agree to falsify my research reports to indicate we'd found nothing of significance in the deep water. Or they would take the footage anyway, destroy my career through classified legal proceedings, and ensure that no reputable institution would ever work with me again. We're not villains, Dr. Hayes, he said as he was leaving. We're realists. Those creatures have survived this long precisely because most people don't believe they exist. The moment you prove they're real is the moment they're doomed. Every government would want to study them. Every scientist would want samples. Every media outlet would want footage. The loch would become a circus, and those creatures would die from the stress and exposure. We're protecting them by protecting the secret. By threatening anyone who discovers the truth. By managing information that most people can't handle responsibly. You're a scientist. You think truth is sacred, that knowledge should be shared. We're pragmatists. We know that some truths are dangerous, that some knowledge causes more harm than good. This is one of those cases. After he left, my team gathered in the research station to discuss our options. My graduate students wanted to fight, to release the footage publicly before it could be confiscated, to trust that scientific evidence would overcome whatever government pressure was applied. My technician was more cautious. They are serious. And they have resources we can't match. If we fight, we lose everything. But if we don't fight, one of my students said, those creatures remain unknown. All the scientific value of this discovery, all the potential for understanding their evolution and biology and behavior, it all stays hidden. That's wrong. I thought about the creature looking into our camera. About the way it had gently pushed our ROV away from the nest rather than destroying it. About the intelligence in those eyes and the trust it had shown by not attacking when it easily could have. And I thought about what Director Campbell had said. About media circuses and government studies and the end of secrecy that had protected these creatures for thousands of years. We're going to comply, I said finally. We're going to surrender the footage, sign their agreements, and let this discovery stay hidden. You can't be serious, my graduate student protested. This is the scientific discovery of the century. And publicizing it would be the extinction event of the century. I've seen what happens when rare species are discovered. I've watched governments and corporations and academic institutions tear apart ecosystems in the name of study and knowledge. Those creatures down there, those eggs in that chamber, they deserve better than becoming specimens. So we just let them win? Let them bury the truth. We let the creatures live in peace. That's what we do. That's the only ethical choice. I made copies before surrendering everything. Secret copies that Director Campbell's people didn't know about, hidden in locations they couldn't access. Because while I was willing to keep the discovery private, I wasn't willing to let the evidence disappear completely. Someday, I thought, when conditions were different, when humanity was wiser, when we could be trusted with knowledge that powerful, the truth could be revealed. That was my second mistake. Because they knew. Somehow, they knew I'd kept copies. And they were watching, waiting for me to try to use them. I surrendered the official footage. Signed their documents. Falsified my research reports. And for 6 months, I thought that was the end of it. But I was wrong. Part 2 will reveal what happened when I tried to do the right thing, why I've been in hiding for 43 years, and what became of that nest and those creatures after I was forced to walk away. I tried to move on. Completed my research season at Loch Ness, filing reports that documented rock formations and sediment patterns and fish populations, everything we'd found except the one thing that mattered. Returned to Edinburgh. Resumed teaching. Attempted to rebuild a career that felt hollow after what I'd witnessed. But I couldn't forget. Couldn't stop thinking about that chamber, those eggs, those creatures protecting their young with intelligence and purpose that defied every assumption about what animals were capable of. I'd made the right choice in surrendering the footage, I still believe that. But the weight of that secret, of knowing something extraordinary existed and being forced to deny it, was crushing. My marriage began to deteriorate. My wife Sarah could tell something had changed, that I was carrying knowledge I couldn't share. She pressed me for answers, and when I couldn't provide them, she assumed the worst, an affair, a breakdown, something that would explain why the man she'd married had become distant and obsessed. 6 months after leaving Loch Ness, I made the mistake of trying to do something good with what I knew. I contacted a journalist I trusted, someone who'd reported on environmental issues, who understood that some stories needed careful handling. I didn't show him the footage I'd hidden. But I told him about the nest. Described what we'd found. Suggested that there might be a species in Loch Ness that deserved protection, that perhaps conservation measures should be implemented even if we couldn't publicly acknowledge why. The journalist was interested. Started asking questions. Began investigating on his own. And within 2 weeks, he was dead. Car accident, the report said. Lost control on a wet road, went off a cliff in the Highlands. Tragic but not suspicious. These things happen. Except I knew better. Knew that Director Campbell had said they monitored anyone who got too close to certain truths. Knew that the journalist's death, coming so soon after I'd contacted him, was a message meant specifically for me. Don't talk. Don't hint. Don't even suggest that there's something worth protecting at Loch Ness. I should have taken that warning. Should have accepted that some secrets are enforced with violence, that some truths are too dangerous to pursue. Instead, I did something incredibly stupid. I tried to go back to the nest. I planned it carefully. Rented different equipment from a different supplier, used a false name, worked alone so no one else would be implicated. Drove to Loch Ness in March 1983, 8 months after my original discovery, to see if the nest was still there, if the eggs had hatched, if the creatures I documented were thriving. I deployed the ROV from a small boat, navigating by the coordinates I'd memorized, descending through dark water toward the fissure that led to the breeding chamber. My hand shook as I operated the controls, knowing I was violating every agreement I'd signed, risking everything to satisfy a curiosity that felt more like obsession. The fissure was still there. The tunnel descended just as I remembered. But when the ROV entered the main chamber, I found it empty. The platforms were gone. The eggs were gone. Even the bones that had been scattered throughout the chamber had been removed. The space had been stripped clean, leaving only bare rock and the channels carved into the floor. The creatures had moved their nest. Recognized that the location had been compromised, that human knowledge of this place made it unsafe. They'd relocated to somewhere deeper, more hidden, more secure. And they'd done it with the organizational capability and forward thinking that proved their intelligence beyond any doubt. I was still processing this discovery when my ROV's cameras picked up movement. Not the creatures, something else. Something metallic, mechanical, moving through the water with the precision of advanced technology. Another ROV. Newer than mine, more sophisticated, equipped with cameras that tracked my vehicle the way a predator tracks prey. And attached to its frame was a message, written on a waterproof slate, positioned where my cameras couldn't miss it. Dr. Hayes, leave now. This is your final warning. Leave a comment right now. Even just still watching or this is important. The YouTube algorithm needs to see engagement on this video to recommend it to more people. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this with anyone who believes some truths need to be told despite the danger. Because what happened next is why I've spent 43 years in hiding, why I lost everything, why I'm only now, as I'm dying, willing to risk telling this story. I retrieved my ROV and fled. Drove back to Edinburgh, packed a bag, told Sarah I needed time away. She didn't try to stop me. Our marriage was already over, had been since the moment I'd signed those documents and agreed to bury the truth. I went to ground. Found a flat in London using a false name. Withdrew cash from my accounts, closed them, severed connections to my previous life. Became someone else, not dramatically, not with new identity documents, but simply by disappearing from the academic world I'd inhabited for 15 years. For 2 months, I thought I'd succeeded. Thought Director Campbell's organization had lost track of me, thought I could start over somewhere they wouldn't look. Then I received a package at the flat I'd rented. Inside was a photograph, recent, clear, showing me entering the building where I was hiding. And attached to it was a note. Dr. Hayes, we know where you are. We know what you're planning. You have 2 choices. Meet with us to discuss terms of your permanent silence. Or wait for us to arrange a tragic accident like the one that befell your journalist friend. You have 48 hours to decide. They found me 3 hours later. I never got a chance to decide. Hay didn't kill me. That surprised me then, still surprises me now. Instead, they took me to a facility I won't describe. For all I know, it still exists, still holds people who've discovered things they weren't supposed to discover. Some kind of research station, possibly government-run, possibly private, located somewhere that felt remote and isolated, though I couldn't see outside to verify. Director Campbell was there, looking older than I remembered, less patient. You should have accepted our terms, he said. You should have taken the money we offered, signed a permanent non-disclosure, and gone back to your comfortable academic life. But you couldn't let it go. You had to tell someone. You had to return to the nest. You forced us to take more extreme measures. You killed that journalist. We prevented a security breach. There's a difference. And if you'd followed the rules, he'd still be alive. His death is on your conscience, not ours. They kept me in that facility for 6 weeks. Not imprisoned, exactly, I had a room, access to books and television, meals brought regularly. But watched constantly, never alone, never free to leave or contact anyone. During those 6 weeks, they showed me things. Footage of the creatures, collected over decades using technology far more advanced than anything I'd had access to. They'd been monitoring Loch Ness since at least the 1950s, had documented the nest long before I'd found it, knew about the breeding population and had been carefully managing human awareness to ensure the species remained protected. "We're not villains," Director Campbell said again, showing me video of juvenile creatures learning to hunt, of adults teaching their young, of a population that numbered at least 15 individuals across multiple age groups. "We're conservationists. We've kept these creatures safe for decades by keeping them secret. You threatened that protection by trying to go public. So what do you want from me? Your expertise, your knowledge, your willingness to help us understand these creatures better so we can protect them more effectively." They offered me a position. Researcher for their organization, studying the Loch Ness population, contributing to conservation efforts that would never be publicly acknowledged. Good salary. Interesting work. The opportunity to do what I'd always wanted, study remarkable life forms, with the caveat that my research would remain classified forever. And if I refuse, then we have an unfortunate accident arranged for you. Hiking mishap in the Highlands. Tragic but not suspicious. We'd prefer your cooperation, but we're prepared to ensure your silence permanently if necessary. I should have refused on principle. Should have accepted death rather than work for an organization that had killed a journalist and was willing to kill me. But I didn't. Because they showed me footage of the eggs hatching. Showed me the juveniles emerging, helpless and vulnerable, needing protection from a world that would destroy them if given the chance. And I understood that working for this organization, compromising my principles, accepting their blood money, that was the only way I could ensure those creatures survived. I worked for them for 7 years. From 1983 to 1990, I studied the Loch Ness population using equipment I could never have afforded as an academic researcher. Documented their behavior, their biology, their remarkable adaptations to life in deep, cold freshwater. Watched juveniles mature into adults, watched adults teach their young, watched a society function with complexity that rivaled cetacean intelligence. The nest moved 3 times during those years. Each relocation was triggered by human activity that got too close, recreational divers exploring new areas, sonar surveys by research vessels, fishing operations that penetrated depths the creatures considered safe. They were constantly adapting, constantly responding to threats, constantly choosing new locations that balanced accessibility for breeding with security from discovery. I documented all of it. Wrote reports that went into files no one outside the organization would ever read. Built a comprehensive understanding of a species that officially didn't exist. And I hated every moment. Hated the secrecy. Hated working for people who'd killed to maintain that secrecy. Hated knowing that the most significant biological discovery of the century would remain hidden because acknowledging it would doom the species to extinction through human interference. In 1990, I told them I was done. Told them I'd fulfilled my obligation, that 7 years of service had paid whatever debt my discoveries had created. They didn't argue. They'd gotten what they wanted: detailed research, comprehensive documentation, verification that their conservation approach was working. They released me with conditions. Annual check-ins to ensure I remained silent. Continued monitoring of my communications and movements. and the standing threat that any attempt to go public would result in consequences for me and anyone I tried to contact. I moved to the outskirts of Manchester. Found work teaching biology at a community college under my real name. They allowed that, since I had to make a living somehow. Built a quiet, unremarkable life. Never married again. Never had children. Lived in isolation, enforced not by physical barriers but by the knowledge that forming close relationships would put people at risk. For 35 years, I've maintained that silence. Watched cryptozoology enthusiasts debate whether the Loch Ness Monster exists, knowing I could settle the debate with evidence locked in my memory. Watched scientists speculate about prehistoric survivors, knowing I documented something far stranger and more wonderful than their theories suggested. And I've wondered, constantly, whether I made the right choice. Whether protecting those creatures justified working for an organization that killed to maintain secrecy. Whether my silence for over 4 decades has served conservation or merely enabled continued suppression of truth. I'm dying now. The cancer is spreading faster than the doctors anticipated. I have weeks, possibly just days. And I've decided that the creatures deserve better than being an eternal secret, better than existing only in classified files and the memories of a handful of people sworn to silence. So I'm releasing this testimony. Publishing what I know before the organization can stop me. Not to doom the creatures, I believe we're wise enough now, careful enough now, that discovery won't mean destruction. But to acknowledge their existence. To say, they're real, they're remarkable, they're worthy of protection not through secrecy but through genuine conservation. The nest I found in 1982 contained 12 eggs. I watched 11 of those eggs hatch during my time working for the organization. Watched 11 juveniles grow into adults, integrate into the population, contribute to a species that has survived in Loch Ness for thousands of years by being smarter than we give them credit for. They construct nests in deep chambers, carefully selecting locations that balance environmental conditions with security. They teach their young, pass down knowledge across generations, demonstrate cultural transmission of survival strategies. They're not prehistoric survivors unchanged since the age of dinosaurs. They're a modern species, highly evolved, remarkably adapted, intelligent in ways we're only beginning to recognize. And they deserve to be acknowledged. Not hunted. Not captured. Not studied to death. But acknowledged as a species sharing our planet, worthy of the same conservation efforts we extend to whales and elephants and any other intelligent animal at risk of extinction. This is Dr. Richard Hayes' final testimony. Recorded in December 2024 from a location I still won't disclose because old habits die hard. I've spent 43 years keeping this secret. I'm breaking it now not to seek redemption, I don't deserve that, but to ensure the creatures I discovered are remembered and protected. Subscribe to this channel. Leave a comment below, tell me what you think, share your own experiences, ask questions. Every comment tells YouTube this content matters, tells the algorithm to recommend it to more people. Share this video everywhere. Post it on Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, every platform you can find. Make it impossible to suppress. The more people who see this, the harder it becomes to bury. The more engagement this video gets, the more protected the truth becomes. Because secrets maintained by a few people are vulnerable. Secrets shared by millions become impossible to suppress. I discovered the Loch Ness Monster's hidden nest. I documented breeding behavior, watched eggs hatch, studied a population that thrives in complete secrecy. And I was forced to remain silent for 43 years by an organization willing to kill to maintain that secrecy. But I'm not silent anymore. The creatures are real. The nest exists. The population numbers at least 15 individuals, possibly more. They're intelligent. They're worthy of protection. And they deserve better than being an eternal mystery, better than existing only in legend and speculation. If you're watching this, you are now part of preserving this truth. Comment. Subscribe. Share. Make this video trend. Make it impossible for the organizations that have suppressed this knowledge to continue doing so. Because some truths are too important to die with the people who discovered them. Some species are too remarkable to remain hidden forever. And some secrets, no matter how carefully guarded, are meant to be revealed when the time is right. That time is now. The Loch Ness Monster is real. The nest is real. The species is thriving. And the world deserves to know. Comment below. Subscribe now. Share everywhere. Make this truth impossible to suppress. Because the creatures I discovered 43 years ago are counting on us, all of us, to protect them not through secrecy, but through genuine care for a species that has earned the right to be acknowledged. Official marine biologist discovers the Loch Ness Monster's hidden nest. And after 43 years of enforced silence, that discovery is finally, irrevocably, revealed. Dr. Richard Hayes died on January 29, 2025. This recording was uploaded posthumously to multiple platforms simultaneously, along with detailed notes on the nest location, sketches of the chamber layout, and descriptions of the creatures he observed. Within hours of upload, the video had been viewed over 1 million times. Within days, it had sparked international debate, renewed scientific expeditions to Loch Ness, and calls for conservation measures to protect whatever species might inhabit the deep waters. Several organizations have attempted to have the video removed, citing misinformation concerns. All attempts have failed due to overwhelming public interest and engagement. The nest location described by Dr. Hayes has been surveyed by multiple independent teams. The chamber appears to have been abandoned, but evidence of deliberate construction remains visible. Whether the species still breeds at Loch Ness or has relocated to safer waters remains unknown. But Dr. Hayes's testimony has achieved what 43 years of official denial could not: acknowledgement that something remarkable lives in these waters. Something intelligent. Something ancient. Something worthy of protection. The debate about what, exactly, that something is, has only just begun. But the secret, the most carefully guarded secret in cryptozoological history, is finally, completely, irrevocably revealed. And the creatures Dr. Hayes discovered have advocates they never had before, millions of people around the world demanding their protection. Sometimes the truth, once released, becomes impossible to suppress. This is one of those times. Remember, comment below. Subscribe. Share. Every action makes a difference. Every view tells the algorithm this matters. Every share reaches more people who can help protect these creatures.